Tettles, stop stalling with the content. I need to know how bad Moonkin was nerfed going into Dragonflight and how bad it's going to be. Do I need to be posting Doomer memes to get our spec reverted? How bad were the nerfs? Tell me, is Moonkin going to be Fodum? Is Moonkin going to be meta? What's going to be Biss in Dragonflight? All right, the content stalling has ended. I'm coming to you live from a nice 4:04 a.m. from my incredibly dark Dallas apartment to bring you the content you've been waiting for. Let's talk about the nerfs that hit Moonkin the other day, and talk about a couple of other things about like what's changing because of the nerfs, and talk about some bugs that the spec is currently facing, and just fundamentally how it's kind of working on beta right now. Am I happy? Am I not? We'll find out at the end of it. First off, okay, so let's talk about what the nerfs that we saw in a blue post. I guess it was last Thursday, last Friday. Yeah, it was last Friday. We saw some pretty substantial nerfs. First off, Orb Breaker triggers after every 30th shooting stars proc. It was previously the 20th. Astral Communion generates 60 astral power, was 75. Pulsar triggers after spending 600 astral power, was 300. Sunder Firmament creates a Fury Balloon at 20% effectiveness, was 25. I'll stop to say, so you would expect this to still give you 40 astral power from how the 2-set works. That is no longer the case. This now gives, I believe, 8, and it was giving you 10. And so this got nerfed again. Elun's Guidance reduces the astral power cost of Star Surge by 5, and the astral power cost of Starfall by 8, and that was 10 and 15. Rattle the Stars reduces the cost of Starfall and Star Surge by 5% per stack, was 10. Star Surge cost 40 astral power, was previously 30, and the damage reduced got 30 by 35%. Starfall damage reduced by 35%, and then Shooting Stars generates 2 astral power and was previously 3, and then the damage reduced by 50%. All right, so I think that these changes, everybody who plays Moonkin fairly regularly and has played Moonkin in beta realizes, oh my god, these changes are big. These are very large changes just as a whole. So we're starting at the top. The Orb Breaker triggering after every 30th shooting stars, previously being 20th. We saw shooting stars got nerfed last build from 25% proc chance back down to 15% proc chance. And so now Orb Breaker is triggering even more infrequently. And so now this kind of pushes Orb Breaker, Shooting Star, Solstice into more, even more of a single target focused niche. Relative to its performance on AoE, although it's still good on AoE, is how I kind of view it. Astral Communion generating 60 astral power was previously 75. I mean, we saw what all these other ones were. This kind of makes sense. They're reducing the amount of astral power that we're able to generate completely passively without pressing our builders, which, I mean, there were some problems with that. I wish I had some logs up from raid testing. You were able to previously press Star Surge like 15 times in a row, only being supplemented by things like Astral Communion and Fury Balloon. Pulsar triggers after spending 600 astral power, was previously 300. This one, let's talk about all three of these together. Primordial Arcanic Pulsar triggers after spending 600 astral power, was previously 300. Elun's Guidance reduces the astral power cost of Star Surge by 5 and the astral power cost of Starfall by 8. And then Rattle the Stars reduces the cost of Starfall and Star Surge by 5% per stack, was 10%. So these three things were very synergistic with one another. And all three of them got slapped down in unison to try to break up a very strong and prominent build that we had that was in our talent tree, where we would take all three of these, we would be in Incarn. Okay, so in a previous build, it was 85%. And so we would be in Incarn for 85% of the time, and we would be cranking out like 100% uptime on Rattle the Stars and now stuff like that. Now, as it currently stands, it's very difficult to keep up Rattle of the Stars because on top of all of that, Star Surge cost got increased to 40 astral power. And so I don't know if it's even possible to keep 100% uptime on Rattle of the Stars. I know that I was having trouble with it on a training dummy, but I would need to look at sims a little bit more to kind of fully understand if I'm able to. But I don't know if I am able to keep up Rattle permanently. I suspect whenever you're in Incarnation, you have Elun's Guidance, you might be able to, but I don't know beyond that. So Primordial Arcanic Pulsar getting nerfed to 600 astral power. It was a little bit higher than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if 600 is the correct amount. There are a decent number of situations where I've ran into where I'm like, holy shit, it's really hard to get 600 astral power. especially like in M plus. I've noticed it particularly more readily because it's like whenever you're dropping combat, you have to like start another pull and you have to like start redotting and stuff like that. And so your ramp time, of course, is going to be slower, and then you're going to end up spending a lot of globals dotting. And so the amount of pulsar procs that you're getting is just a lot lower. So I don't know if 600 is the right amount, but at the same point, this is still a steep nerf. This talent still synergizes very well with our kit. So you're probably going to be playing it. We're going to go over some builds and stuff in a second too. Sun and Firmament creates a Fury of Elune at 20% effectiveness, was 25%. I think that this is the most questionable nerf that we saw. This talent was previously like a 1.2% damage increase before, whenever it was at 25%, and now it's probably a sub 1%. I haven't seen the numbers on it since, but the fact that it gives 8 astral power and the Fury of Elune does like 8,000 damage is kind of a joke. Like this is the only nerf that I saw, and I was like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. Elune's guidance reducing the astral power cost of Star Surge by 5 and the astral power cost of Starfall by 8. You know, this talent needed to be kind of slapped down a little bit. I'm not shocked that this happened. I think that, again, there was too much synergy between Elune's guidance, Primordial Arcanic Pulsar, and Rattle the Stars. All three of them in conjunction with one another were a bit too strong with what they were providing. This one makes sense. Rattle the Stars reduced the cost of Starfall and Star Surge by 5% per stack, was previously 10%. I kind of get this as well. Like Elune's guidance and Rattle, I talked about it in a previous video. I said I would be shocked if both of them didn't get hit in some major capacity. Both of these, I think getting nerfed is more or less fine. Star Surge cost increased to 40, astral power was 30, and damage reduced by 35%. I'm not a fan of this. I think that this is just. So I think that this is okay. So having played with it for a few days now, I think that this is a fine change. I'm not a fan of it for a couple of reasons, though. First off, now Star Surge being at 40 astral power and Star Surge being at 50 astral power puts Starfall in a spot where it's very close to whether or not you're casting Starfall on single target. Because, okay, so they may end up having to nerf Starfall's damage, and obviously this is kind of fixed by tuning. But at the same point, it puts Star Surge in a spot where it's actually kind of difficult to know all the time when you're supposed to be casting Starfall and Star Surge. Whenever Star Surge is at 40 astral power and Starfall's at 50, anytime that you're going to ever hit a second target, it's almost always going to be Starfall, assuming that Starfall's not tuned horribly. Because you're basically spending 10 more astral power. Damage reduced by 35%, this is fine. Starfall damage reduced by 35%, this is fine. I'll stop and say for a second, I'm very surprised that we didn't see a mastery coefficient nerf. I think that reducing the damage of these two spells by 35% may have been a bit preemptive, and Blizzard should have instead reduced our mastery coefficient, the amount of damage that we're getting from our mastery coefficient. But it's fine. Shooting Stars now generates 2, astral power was 3, and then damage reduced by 50%. This is, again, kind of similar with the Astral Communion Order Breaker nerfs, where they want our 100% passive astral power generation to be worse. So I understand why Shooting Stars and Orbital Breaker got nerfed. Can't say I'm like 100% sure why Astral Communion got nerfed. Most of these make sense. I kind of disagree with the Star Surge astral power cost. And then the Sunder Firmament nerf, I think, is just bad. I think that's something that needs to change with this. Okay. In addition to that, our tier set got nerfed, but it didn't get changed, so it's fine. Damage bonus to Wrath or Starfire changed to 20% per stack, was 50. And then bonus damage to Star Surge or Starfall changed to 35%, was 50. So they didn't change fundamentally how our 2-set and our 4-set work. They just changed the amount of damage numbers that are associated with it. I saw it. I think the preliminary numbers that I saw got changed were like, it was like a 12% damage gain. Now it's like a 7% damage gain to have your 4-set. But this also feeds, by the way, this also feeds into like Pulsar. And so, yeah. Okay, so basically, what does all this mean? So there's actually a decent number of things that have changed. Okay, let me zoom out for a little bit. Let's look at some talent builds. Okay, so first off, let me see. What is this one? This is not what I was looking for. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay, so on the left here, we have a single target raid build. On the right here, you have like an M+ build as it currently stands. Oh, okay. You actually can't see that one on the left very easily. Oh, okay. We're just gonna bring them up one at a time. So here is a single target raid build. I'll just bring them up one at a time. What the main changes that have occurred in the tree are now you're playing Convoke on single target. So some would say that part of this is due to the fact that we have a lot of on-hit bugs in our tree. This is completely not taking into account the on-hit bugs in our tree. So as it currently stands, our two set is bugged to proc on hit, meaning that you can like double dip casts inside of it before the Wrath hits the target. So you could actually just go like Wrath into Starfire, right? And then if you're standing far enough away, you're able to kind of get two of the procs at once. Alternatively, like the same thing works for Umbral Embrace. If you're standing far enough away and you have an Umbral Embrace proc, it also works on hit. This is not taking into account those. Those also work with Convoke. So if you have like a 3 stack of your 2 set and then you have an Umbral Embrace proc and you press Convoke, you would get like a full astral damage, a bunch of Wraths that are astral damage out of the Convoke, and you would be also getting them buffed up. I think that is a bug, and that is more likely than not going to change in some capacity. Even still, Convoke's still a very good talent for single target now. The other major thing is I think Rattle is gone in most situations. So now Starweaver, formerly known as Unearth's Intuition, is a premier choice on single target. Beyond that, there's not too much that's like super surprising with the tree. You're taking for single target, you're taking Orbit Breaker, you're actually taking the Starfall Shrapnel line to make sure that you're able to get Starweaver because it's very powerful and it synergizes quite well with our 4 set. There's also things like Waning Twilight, Stellar Flare, a bunch of very normal stuff. Denizens and Friends of the Fae, both of these are pretty good as well. So that's like what a single target build looks like. So for an M+ build, as it currently stands right now, we have Rattle, Elun's Guidance, Incarn, Fury of Elune. You may notice we don't have Mushrooms. I have a suspicion that this will get changed like once Mushrooms get bug fixed. They're still very buggy right now. There's a lot of different M+ builds that are running around. I think that Mushrooms may get played, but what you see on screen right here with I think that if you're going to drop 2 points for the Mushrooms, it's going to be Goldrin plus Boat are going to get dropped, and you're going to put Mushroom and Fungal Growth and then take Fury Balloon. You're take these 3 talents on the right. However, I think that Goldrin and Boat also makes sense. It's really going to come down to some numbers. This is obviously, these are very preliminary, like work in progress talent trees that Chicken mocked up the other day. So not much changed on the M+ front with what you're running. Again, Rattle may get changed to Starweaver as well. But in general, a lot of these talents make sense. Waning Twilight does now proc off like Fungal Growth Dot, but I don't see that that's like something that you're going to be playing a lot. Denizens of the Dream, I mean, the Denizens of the Dream and Friends of the Fae, you end up getting around like 5% damage or so for 2 points, and that's actually a decent amount of damage considering how much value they're providing you. Okay, let's talk about some of the bugs that are present. There's a lot of bugs. TLDR, there's a lot of bugs. Some of the biggest ones is like obviously the 2 set and the 4 set are probably the biggest ones where they don't proc on impact. They proc on impact, they don't proc on cast, and so that creates a lot of weird gameplay. In addition to that, our 4 set Star Surge and Starfall that is queued immediately after entering Eclipse will not benefit from the buff. I think that I would not hold your breath on this one. I think that there is a chance that this does not get changed. But I think the on-hit stuff from the 2 set, the 4 set, Umbral Embrace, I think all of that is probably going to get changed. What are other major bugs? I think that Mushrooms not working on a lot of targets is a major bug that'll probably get changed in some capacity. Same with Fungal Growth. Orbit Breaker procking removes full moon charges. I think that's a big one. That will likely get changed as well. I think that those are probably the biggest bugs that are plaguing the spec a bit right now. There's obviously you can scroll down the sheet yourself. I'll link it in the description. You can look at the sheet. Like it's the top pin in the Dream Grove. Actually, go look at it there. There's a lot of stuff like Star Lord only stacking to 2 sometimes randomly, and I'm like, okay, what is this about? overall, okay, what are my thoughts on Moonkin after the hot fixes, after all the changes and stuff like that? I think it's still better than Shadowlands Moonkin by a considerable amount. They nerfed a lot of the fun synergies that the spec provides, and they hit a build that was very fun to play. The Rattle Loon's Guidance Pulsar build. Obviously, you're going to still be playing in Plus probably, just because like the cost reductions and stuff like that. So you're probably going to be playing it in Plus. So I think it's still better than Shadowlands Moonkin. A lot of the on-hit stuff right now to play around is like pretty cringe, not very fun. I do not like the on-hit stuff being bugs right now, and I hope that gets fixed almost immediately because it's not fun to play around those. In addition to that, it's a lot of reactionary procs, not reactionary procs. I mean, you should know when they're going to proc a lot of the time with your 4-set plus Oneths. So with plus Starweaver, there's a lot of procs that you have to manage now, especially too with the 2-set, and so you have to be really paying attention to some of the more passive buffs that you're getting and understanding how to cast via those. And so that's a bit of a change of gameplay. I am a bit worried that they might tune down our Astral Power generation a bit too low to compensate for the 4-set. Because we're going to be getting free Star Surges and Starfalls with the 4-set, which is able to feed into Pulsar. Procs, and so I worry that Blizzard may tune down our Astral Power spending by a bit to try to compensate with that. That's just a general concern of mine. But overall, how have I been feeling about the spec? I'm okay with it. I think it's still better than Shadowlands Moonkin. I think the nerfs kind of suck. I'm not super thrilled about the Star Surge being 40 Astral Power cost, but I'm not a big doomer on it. I think that overall it's fine. I think that, like, is it a perfect spec? No. Did they remove a lot of the garbage that was from Shadowlands? Yes. I do think that they removed a lot of the garbage from Shadowlands. I'm still excited to play it. I think that overall it's been a pretty fun experience. I hope it's overtuned. And make sure to come check out my stream. I'm going to be streaming in Plus as that's available for testing on the beta. I'm also going to be streaming raid testing, so you guys can come watch that. You can come by anytime and ask any questions and get out of here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.